Welcome out to St. Joseph as the Chiefs have officially wrapped up training camp here at Missouri Western State University. 19 practices officially in the books, and as we've told you, a lot of players, coaches, even the staff members really excited to get back to Kansas City because they get a chance to sleep in their own beds and start counting down to games that actually matter. The Chiefs do have 2 more preseason games coming up, one on Friday against the Cardinals, that's on the road, and then the final one at home at Arrowhead against the Vikings. But I just want to talk about for a few seconds the 5 takeaways from training camp up here because a lot has developed. Going into training camp, one of the biggest question marks was the offensive line. What is Orlando Brown going to look like at left tackle? So far, we've seen him step up to the challenge, but again, it's just the preseason and it's just training camp. Those one-on-one drills that we witnessed throughout camp during practices up against Chris Jones, while it looks like he may have struggled in those one-on-ones, he actually told us that he utilizes those one-on-one drills in order to improve himself. One day he'll focus on his hands. One day he'll focus on his feet. One day he just focuses on his aggressiveness. So not to take too much from those one-on-ones, look more at the team and the group practices and those times that the offensive line gets to focus on working as a unit. That's when he wins those battles, and we saw it during the first preseason game. Now moving forward, what can he do? But also a good look at the 3 rookies, if you consider Lucas Niang a rookie, kind of a second-year redshirt rookie. They look really good on the offensive line right now as well. Trey Smith might be the steal of the draft because of his dominance. And look, I'm not a huge PFF person, Pro Football Focus, but when it comes to the offensive line and their breakdowns, he was one of the top, if not the top offensive lineman for the Chiefs coming out of that first preseason game. Storyline number 2, the defensive line. Chris Jones moving from inside to the edge. He got his first sack of the preseason from the tackle spot rather than the edge spot, but he told us at the very end of camp that he is still learning, that this is still a process for him, but I think that he's going to be dominant once we get into the regular season. As for Frank Clark, he's a question mark because he's been injured dealing with that hamstring. What happens now? How do they move Jaron Reed around? Alex Okafor, some of those other guys, Tim Ward, who's had a pretty good first preseason game. What will we see from the D-line and all those shifts in Frank Clark moving forward? The receiver battle was one that I focused on and was really big on going into camp. Who's going to fill in Sammy Watkins' shoes? Who's going to take over those snaps? But we've learned as this camp has progressed that it's not necessarily going to be just one guy. It's not going to be just McCole Hardman or just Demarcus Robinson or just Byron Pringle. It's going to be a combination of those guys sharing those snaps, and we'll have to see what they can do when the lights are on and real games happen, because the first preseason game is not going to give you enough to really see what these receivers are going to be able to do for you and do when Patrick Mahomes is at the helm for an extended period of time. So Hardman, Robinson, Pringle, Darius Fountain actually stood out, so he might be a guy to watch when cut days roll around. Hopefully he ends up staying with this team, as well as Marcus Kemp, a guy to watch and keep on your radar. When it comes to the tight ends, Jody Fortson, who's been a receiver over the past few years for the Chiefs, now taking over at a tight end position. Travis Kelce, Blake Bell have both taken him under their wings, and he's seemed to really shine in that position. So we'll see if he stays there and what Andy Reid decides to do with the tight end spot. Do they keep 4 tight ends, 3 tight ends? He loves his 3 tight end sets. Is that something that ends up translating into the regular season? And then, of course, I think the big thing with the defense is Tyron Matthews' contract. We have been waiting up here, it feels like every single day, just waiting for Brett Veach to say something or the Chiefs to release something about signing him to a long-term extension. Kansas City loves the Honey Badger, but will that actually get done at some point during the season? We haven't seen it up to this point, and we would like to keep him here in Kansas City. Veach also understands the importance of him, his leadership that he brings to the locker room, but per some reports earlier this week, it might be a little bit more difficult than a lot of us really think or can get into. So those are my 5 camp storylines that have come out of the past 19 practices, and St. Joe officially a wrap in 2021. It has been nice to be back out here in person. Last year, no OTAs. The training camp at the practice facility just was not the same. So to be able to be out here and the guys to really get that feel that football is back and it's back to a bigger and better sense of normalcy is really, really awesome, and it has been really fun to be a part of. So if you guys have any other questions, please drop them in the chat down below, and I will do my best to answer them. But for now, enjoy the last 2 games of the preseason, and we cannot wait for the regular season to kick off.